Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode where we dive into the intricate dynamics of the 2024 U.S. presidential election. With Election Day just around the corner, only 15 days away, we'll analyze the latest polling data from across the states. The competition between former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris is intensifying, with both contenders vying for the crucial 270 electoral votes needed to clinch victory. Our exploration of the electoral landscape starts on the West Coast. Both Washington and Oregon are expected to solidly favor the Democrats. In California, Vice President Harris, who previously served as a U.S. Senator for 4 years, is significantly ahead of Donald Trump, with a substantial lead of 23.7%. Shifting our focus to Nevada, the numbers show Vice President Harris slightly in the lead with 47.7% of the vote, just a fraction ahead of Trump's 47.1%, a slim margin of 0.6%. Historically, Nevada has favored Democratic candidates since 2008, with both Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden securing wins by about 2.4% in their respective elections. Despite the tight race this year, current polling suggests that Kamala Harris maintains a slight advantage. In Arizona, the tables turn with Donald Trump leading by 1.8%. Arizona has been trending towards the right recently. However, it is not essential for Kamala Harris to win this state to secure an overall victory. For Donald Trump, capturing Arizona is critical to his potential pathways to the presidency. Even though President Biden won Arizona in the last election, the current trends hint at a possible shift back to Republican favor this November, with Trump looking to regain the state, which he won by nearly 4 percentage points in 2016. Continuing to Colorado and New Mexico, where President Biden achieved significant victories in the previous election, Colorado by nearly 14% and New Mexico by about 11%. Presently, Vice President Harris holds a strong lead in Colorado with a 12 percentage point advantage, supported by data from 3 recent polls, confirming its status as a Democratic stronghold. In New Mexico, Harris is leading by 8% with poll results consistently showing strong support, hinting at another solid Democratic performance in this election cycle. Turning our attention to Texas, traditionally a stronghold for Republicans since 1980, the race is exceedingly close, with Donald Trump ahead by only 6.6%. This margin shows a slight increase from the 2020 election, where Trump led by 5 percentage points. It is expected that Texas will likely remain Republican-leaning once again. As we expand our analysis to the heartland of the U.S., which includes Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, North and South Dakota, along with Nebraska's 1st and 3rd districts, its at-large vote, plus Kansas and Oklahoma. These regions are predicted to strongly support Trump. However, Nebraska's 2nd district appears to be tilting towards Harris, while Alaska is expected to lean Republican and Hawaii remains staunchly Democratic. Focusing on the essential Midwest region in the electoral scenario, Vice President Kamala Harris must secure victories in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, along with wins in Minnesota and Illinois, to gather the necessary 270 electoral votes to win. Illinois and Minnesota are anticipated to lean towards her, marking them as likely victories. However, the results in the pivotal battleground states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania are still up in the air. On the flip side, President Donald Trump needs to claim at least one of these hotly contested states to maintain a realistic chance of securing re-election. In the state of Minnesota, Vice President Harris has established a lead of 5.8%, largely due to her strategic partnership with Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota, who has been instrumental in strengthening her campaign. As a result, Minnesota is currently trending Democratic. Although Harris is unlikely to match Biden's 2020 winning margin of 7 percentage points in Minnesota, her current lead is substantial enough to place her in a favorable position for claiming the state. In contrast, President Trump holds a slight edge in Iowa, leading by 5.5%. This margin is narrower than his previous victories in Iowa, where he won by 9 points in 2016 and by 8 points in 2020, indicating a gradual decline in his dominance in the state across the last 3 election cycles. Nonetheless, Iowa still leans in his favor. Meanwhile, Illinois is predicted to vote Democratic, and Indiana is expected to stay firmly in the Republican column. The electoral contest in Wisconsin is exceptionally tight and crucial. Vice President Harris has a slight edge, leading by only 0.6% according to recent polls, which show the competition heating up. At the beginning of her campaign, she enjoyed a more comfortable lead of approximately 2 percentage points, but this lead has since decreased. Despite this tightening race, she continues to be the preferred candidate in Wisconsin, a state that is also essential for President Trump's re-election ambitions. The state is predicted to lean slightly Democratic, mirroring the electoral tendencies seen in Nevada. Turning to Michigan, which is among the more Democratic-leaning swing states, Vice President Harris holds a modest lead of 0.8%. The race in Michigan remains tight and is becoming more competitive, a common situation for such a pivotal state. Despite the tight competition, Vice President Harris has a slight upper hand, indicating that she is in a favorable position to potentially secure a win in this critical battleground state. This maintains Michigan's status as a state leaning toward Harris, underscoring her strong standing in the election overall. In Ohio, a state that President Trump won in the last 2 elections, he currently shows a solid lead of 7.7%, which is consistent with his previous margins of victory in 2016 and 2020. Ohio has moved away from its former battleground status, with Trump positioned as the clear favorite to win there again, indicating a strong likelihood of his success in the state. Shifting focus on Pennsylvania, it's important to note that President Trump could still achieve victory even if Vice President Kamala Harris wins this key state. Presently, Harris holds a slight advantage with a 0.7% lead. The electoral battle in Pennsylvania has been tightly contested throughout this election, with Harris maintaining a small but persistent lead. Securing Pennsylvania, along with other key states in the upper Midwest, could significantly boost her chances of securing the presidency, as it plays a pivotal role in the overall electoral strategy. This potential victory in Pennsylvania would be a crucial component in her path towards a decisive win. Focusing on the northeastern region of the United States, it appears that Vice President Kamala Harris is poised to command a strong lead. She is anticipated to secure victories across several states, including Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and the District of Columbia. In New York, despite a noticeable dip in Democratic favorability linked to the unpopularity of figures such as Mayor Eric Adams and Governor Kathy Hochul, Harris maintains a substantial lead of 14.1%. This advantage sets her up well to clinch the state's 28 electoral votes, marking a significant win for her campaign efforts. In the state of New Hampshire, commonly known as the Granite State, Vice President Harris enjoys a solid advantage, leading Donald Trump by 6.6%. This margin is notably significant considering Hillary Clinton's narrow victory in the same state back in 2016. The consistency of Harris's lead suggests a strong leaning toward the Democratic side, nearing a 7-point spread, which would firmly classify New Hampshire as a Democratic-leaning state. Shifting our attention to Maine, Vice President Harris has built a commanding lead of 10%, which surpasses Joe Biden's victory margin of 9.1% back in 2020. This development suggests a robust leaning toward the Democratic Party within Maine, with its first congressional district being solidly Democratic and the second district showing a tendency to favor Donald Trump. Wrapping up our examination of the electoral landscape in the southern United States, we note the solid support for Trump across several states: Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, and South Carolina. These states are expected to decisively back the former president in the forthcoming election. Beginning our analysis with Virginia, the initial state among the final 4 being discussed, Vice President Kamala Harris leads by a notable margin of 7.6%. Despite some speculation regarding the possibility of Harris losing Virginia, such an outcome seems quite unlikely. Reflecting on the 2020 elections where Joe Biden secured Virginia by a notable margin, it is projected that Kamala Harris will also triumph here, reinforcing the state's status as a Democratic stronghold. Advancing to North Carolina, a state that has historically tilted Republican in the past 2 presidential elections, where Donald Trump narrowly clinched victory in 2020 by merely 1%. Currently, Kamala Harris is slightly trailing by 0.9%. Though North Carolina is not pivotal to Harris's overall path to victory, it remains a hotly contested battleground. The polls indicate a slight Republican edge, yet the final result remains of critical importance. Turning our attention to Georgia, endearingly known as the Peach State, the previous election was won by an incredibly slim margin. Trump succeeded by just 0.24%, marking it as the nation's tightest race. Presently, Trump holds a lead of 1%, suggesting yet another close battle this election cycle. Although Trump is seen as the frontrunner, Kamala Harris is not far behind, keeping Georgia as a keenly contested state with a likely Republican tilt. In Florida, the political climate has notably shifted over the last 4 years, increasingly leaning Republican. Donald Trump currently leads by 5 percentage points. Despite Ron DeSantis securing a significant victory in his gubernatorial re-election in 2022, the presidential contest remains more competitive. The Democrats are hopeful about overcoming Trump's lead, though he currently holds the upper hand in Florida. As the election draws near, current projections place Kamala Harris in a favorable position with 276 electoral votes against Donald Trump's 262. The electoral map predominantly supports Harris, indicating a robust likelihood of her maintaining the presidency. This snapshot of the electoral landscape reflects a dynamic and highly competitive political environment. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure to hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more in-depth and engaging political analysis.